Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be restarting my top 5 of each class champion series, which will kind of culminate in the top 10 overall champions in the game, in my personal opinion, which is a very important thing to remember. I in no way, shape or form try to claim that I have some sort of ultimate knowledge or authority over champion rankings. This is a purely reflection of my personal views on the game, what I have found to be useful, what I have found to be kind of like working well. Obviously my experience is limited, my experience is extremely subjective, and therefore do not use this as kind of like concrete Bible, but just as a rough idea. I guess that would be the way to put it. But first and foremost, so we're starting with tech class, because tech class largely has remained unchanged, but I do have some controversial changes there. Overall, I think that the tech, skill, and cosmic class now arguably are lagging behind a bit to science, to mystic, and to mutants, because mutant class has always been stacked and mutants seem to be getting new good champions. Now we have the Colossus rework, which is completely out of this world, and Colossus is an absolute beast, so on and so forth. Mystics have been getting champion after champion in 2020, and even just before 2020 we got Doom in Mystic class, which is dominating. And yeah, science class also has been establishing itself extremely well, with Fantastic Four release, with Red Guardian coming into the game, with Void, Quake, and Captain America Infinity War already being there, so they have like a solid top group of champions already there, not to mention She-Hulk, Spider-Gwen, and some others. So yeah, I think that unfortunately tech, skill, and cosmic classes are quite heavily behind those three. Let me know what you think, maybe you disagree. But that being said, let's just jump to spot number 5, and now spot number 5 I will put in Hulkbuster. Now I do know that Hulkbuster is extremely new to the contest and a lot of his value is yet to be proven. However, all in all things considered, I see immense amount of potential in that champion, and he is somebody that I'm looking extremely closely to rank up. Partially because I can, and partially I think it's a really fun champion, but I also think that he will come in handy in a lot of kind of like different situations. And the main thing that I do like about Hulkbuster, the one bit that I think majority of the people are currently underestimating, is when you go from your level 2 power drain opponent, are able to drop 5 heavy attacks, significantly boost your damage, drop your level 1, stun the opponent, drop another heavy attack, drop another level 1, drop another heavy attack. You are able to deliver, even at rank 1 6-star levels, kind of like 100k plus damage, and if you were to take that champion up to rank 2, the damage obviously would quite significantly increase. So I think Hulkbuster has that one very strong damage burst output where pretty much nothing can hinder it. From the point where you successfully launch a level 2, you are pretty much in absolutely no danger at all. And put a little apostrophe there, because obviously there are some kinks with his heavy attack. Opponents seem to occasionally be able to shallow wade, and perhaps that's just an input error. But either way, the whole point being is that opponent is not at a high amount of power, and all your abilities are guaranteed to proc. You're guaranteed to power drain, you're guaranteed to stun on your level 1s, and those heavy attacks are guaranteed to inflict shock, and your special attacks are guaranteed to armor break. So there's quite a lot to unpack, and simply for that huge amount of burst that he's able to deliver, plus obviously all of the additional nice kinks that he has, I believe he is well worthy of currently at the very least a top 5 tech spot, just edging out his competitors. So that would be Hulkbuster for me. Now moving on to spot number 4, and at spot number 4 I will personally put I'm gonna put Guillotine now. Guillotine is one of the kind of more interesting champions, and Guillotine also has extremely huge defensive potential. But Guillotine 2099 has a significant drawback in my eyes, that is that finish with level 3 or lose your combo, and that kind of like largely hinders my gameplay experience with Guillotine. Now I do find her useful, and she's finding more and more uses now. Initially, when Guillotine 2099 came out, I described her as a champion with no home, because there is no single piece of content where she is the best for, or where she's absolutely amazing for. Now slowly but surely she has found more significant place in the metagame. There are more lanes in Act 6 that she can do, We just went through several seasons of flow wars, and obviously she was a great option for a lot of those flow fights, not to mention also significant pain on defense with the flow. She is great for variant 3, which is a tech variant, and all in all, she seems to be doing quite alright, but still at the same point she still doesn't have any real spotlight, no real place to shine. Now she can do some amazing things. She arguably has, I think, not even arguably, she has the best damage potential in the game with quite long wind up, but the problem is we simply do not have a place where to unleash it. The fact that Abyss and Rage Timer mechanic functioned the way it did effectively made current rank and level guillotines relatively useless, or at the very least extremely difficult to use in Abyss, which is also a major letdown for the character, because many people kind of like gambled on the fact that she's going to be really great in Abyss, and in all aspects of the point she should be. Perhaps when we have access to rank 4 6 stars, she will be able to shred Abyss like nobody else, because then she'll be able to finish out these fights with that level 3, thus being able to carry over the combo and maintaining much higher damage output. But currently, unfortunately, I will rank her at rank 4 because I do like the character. I do find a lot of value in the fact that she doesn't crit and the power drain and a lot of different mechanics. She was one of the flagship champions on my new mini account that I started a couple months ago, and she was an absolute MVP for like 5.3 as a 4-star champion. But when it comes toward the most difficult situations in the game, I just feel that the mere fact that she's unable to carry over her combo in any other way, shape, form or fashion outside of that level 3 being delivered exactly at the right moment when opponent is at 5%, and that having to be level 3, hindering her use of special attacks quite frequently, is just unjustifiably harsh. And if she, let's say, maybe got another synergy that let her carry 100 combo over regardless of how she finished the fight, or something else that significantly boosted her ease of use in a lot of these contents, I think she has the potential to be a real star for many people when they're clearing Act 6 and a lot of other things. But currently I cannot put her up higher just because of the impracticalities of actually using her in difficult content, and the alternate cost which comes from you being forced to finish the fight with level 3, thus not being able to access your level 2s and level 1s throughout the fight when it's extremely important. And being said, we're moving on to champion number 3, and champion number 3 is Sentinel, because Sentinel is, quite simply put, a very hard working champion. He doesn't particularly shine at anything really outside of being an absolute tank when he's at 100 analysis charges. But Sentinel is tried and trusted and proven to be significant ally in variant 1, one of the powerhouses of variant 2. Variant 3 is practically built for him. Variant 4, whichever fights he can do, he can go in there as well. And most importantly, every single chapter of Act 6 I had or wanted to use Sentinel. Starting from 6.1 into 6.2 into 6.3 into 6.4, there were always lanes where I went to Sentinel, and it's just something you can't away from the champion. You can't deny, even if on paper he doesn't look that great. The simple fact that, for instance, me having 37, I think, rank 5 stars, having about 15 rank 2 or above 6 stars, I still always end up using Sentinel in pretty much any significant piece of content. I think that does say quite a bit. There has always been some lanes, some node combinations where Sentinel just comes in clutch, whether it is 6.3 with those tech boosts where you play shocks if opponents heal blocked, whether it's 6.4 and that King Groot with Thunderstruck where you need to make sure opponents under shock effect in order to deal damage, so on and so forth. There are a lot of different these things, matchups that seemingly just fit Sentinel perfectly. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not kind of like overly enthusiastic or praising Sentinel. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Sentinel is far from my favorite champion to use. Sentinel is a champion I never want to use daily. I never want to bring in Sentinel like uncollected because his ramp up is quite annoying and overall he's quite clunky and he's not the most enjoyable champion, and I'm not trying to say he is. But fact of the matter is, when going gets tough, Sentinel is usually there to answer that call, and therefore I think Sentinel is well deserving of spot number 3, no matter how much people will scream that Guillotine's better, no matter how people will scream that this and that champion is better. For me personally, Sentinel has put in so much work in every single aspect of the game that I can simply not take it away from the champion, not just quite yet, but there will be a speculation at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And obviously now we are up to our top 2, and the second best tech champion is this goofy little mofo, and that's quite it. He is the second best tech champion. He is a robot with armor buff, with access to power drain, with access to armor break, with access to shock, with a tiny bit of healing, but that's far from the most important thing, with a passive heal block, which is extremely rare and quite unique in the game. And again, Warlock is one of those champions that might not necessarily look incredible on paper, but he just seems to fit the hard fights, the hard Sinisters, the hard Sabertooth, the hard Havocs, many other different matchups that should be extremely difficult. Warlock makes relatively simple, just because he has seemingly all of the mechanics that one could be looking for. His access to shock and bleed on his heavy attacks. His heavy attack is a one-hit heavy attack with bleed, so that also means he can effectively bypass evade if opponent can be stunned, because you can just parry heavy the opponent and inflict the bleed damage. He seems to fit everywhere perfectly. I think I used him to deal with 6.31 Do You Bleed Medusa, for instance, because yeah, just parry heavy, and she's heal blocked throughout the fight. So there is just a lot of things that Sentinel seems to do. He works extremely well with or without suicides, and all in all, he's another champion that's quite similar to Sentinel, but I think at this point in game it should be universally agreed that he kind of surpasses the limitations of Sentinel slightly, because his heal block is passive, it's more applicable, it's easier to maintain, and his access to armor break is also like relatively easy to maintain, and his access to armor up buff makes him suitable for dealing with a lot of havoc, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think he has some small things where he edges out Sentinel, but overall the whole player base of Marvel Coins of Champions seems to have fallen in love with this goofy guy, and not to mention his extremely cool animations, man. Those animations are really cool, and it's always fun to use him. Even if you're not dealing Brazilian amounts of damage, his damage output certainly can be improved, but isn't too bad. But his animations make every single fight kind of like fun and interesting, even if you're not absolutely blitzing through opponent's health. So yeah, Warlock's definitely second best tech champion in my opinion, and the third best, the very best champion, obviously it's Ghost. And I can also make a very quick spoiler for my future videos. I think Ghost is second best champion in game overall, behind Quake. I know that there are a lot of people who will disagree with it, but here is something that can put us on common path. I think that Quake and Ghost exist somewhere here, and every other champion in the game is quite significantly far behind. I think if you have Quake and Ghost, and if you know how to use both, then vast majority of the content in the game is out there for your taking, because these two champions combined answer, I don't know, 60, 70, 80% of everything that has to do in Marvel Coins of Champions. So Ghost is just the best tech champion, arguably one of the two best champions in the game. I know that there are going to be people who will oppose me saying Quake is better, but hey, that's my opinion once again. And yeah, I do value Ghost extremely high. Now, quite funnily enough, I don't use Ghost day to day. She's somehow not my champion that I bring in for AQ or AW, but in rare instances. But whenever there is a new variant, whenever there is a new act, whenever there is a new boss challenge, whenever, again, going gets tough, she's always there, and she can do things that majority of the champions can't. The ability to shrug off all the damaging debuffs, ability to guaranteed crit and deal huge amounts of damage, and most importantly, and I think this personally you can take everything away from the Ghost, but the simple way she finds openings, the fact that you don't need to block bait heavy attacks, the fact that you don't need to parry or intercept, you can just stand there, wait for opponent to hit at you, and then interrupt them mid-combo and start your combo seemingly without needing any kind of like extra help, security, or anything else. That is the biggest asset Ghost has. Obviously, all of the other things are useful. Definitely, hood synergy is great and all that stuff. But I think the simple way how Ghost bypasses game mechanic of needing to find an opening, but being able to start your combo and start damaging opponent mid-fight just by letting opponent hit you is huge. And that is the reason why Ghost is as great as she is. And yeah, that is where I put these champions right now. Obviously, there will be people who will scream Stark Spider-Man should be somewhere in there. No, I completely disagree. I think Stark Spider-Man has effectively lost the vast majority of his usefulness and is outdated relic of the past now. He is obviously still a good champion. He can still deliver a lot of damage, and at Act 5 level and some lower tier wars, he's probably very hardworking and a very good champion. But the fact of the matter is that there are better alternatives available. That is not to take anything away from this guy. He's definitely not my personal favorite. I do recognize him as a good champion, but I just don't think he measures up to the challenge anymore. Neither I think that Star-Lord does. Star-Lord, I think, is, again, not a bad champion, but he's simply outdated in his toolkit, and there are better options available out there. And lastly, I want to give a special shout out to a champion that I still absolutely love, which is Mysterio. Mysterio used to be my top 5 champion, and he was in 5th spot. And again, with him, the simple little bits that come together, the passive heal block, which is extremely useful, the access to poison, which is still somewhat rare in the game, and the rest of the mechanics, in my opinion, do still make Mysterio extremely valuable champion to have. And yeah, unfortunately, he just doesn't seem to quite measure up there. Now Vision, I think, is slowly but surely becoming a trophy champion. And the last champion that I want to talk about will be this guy. Will be Guardian. When Guardian does come out this month, I fully expect him, and this is again a pure speculation. I have done quite a lot of testing with 3-star Guardian. There are a couple of videos in the channel if you want to check them out. There is a full-on Guardian review, and there is like a Guardian damage showcase in Realm of Legends fight. But what I wanted to say, when Guardian does come out, I think he likely is in position to grab the 3rd best tech champion spot in the game, possibly challenge Warlock, but he's definitely gonna land somewhere in top 5. Now obviously this is speculation that still has to be proven, how he handles himself day to day, but I definitely believe that Warlock will land in top 5 tech champions in the game altogether, and he will also land in top 5 champions released in 2020, just because he's is a champion that does have a huge ramp up damage potential. It might not be the biggest one, the most significant one, but he's still able to ramp up his damage and deliver a burst of damage that is extremely significant. But additionally, the fact of the matter is that his signature build is going to be extremely useful, and it's going to make him a defensive kind of like power tank. He's going to be able to force his way through a lot of nodes like Biohazard. He's going to be able to force himself through Freezer Burn, and he has that armor up buff, so he can smash havocs in, and he has access to shock, which is always useful. He doesn't crit, so he can deal with terminal velocity, spiked armor, flow, so on and so forth. He can parry projectiles, which is always a neat kind of like trick to have. So yeah, I have quite high expectations of Guardian, and I don't want this video to be outdated in a month. So if Guardian was released in a game, I highly expect that he would land in somewhere as a 3rd, maybe 4th spot currently, knocking down Hulkbuster out of top 5 and battling with Sentinel, Guillotine 2099, and for kind of like 3rd to 5th spot. So yeah, I think Guardian's definitely a champion to keep your eye out for. Guardian, in my personal opinion, is a valuable champion to obtain. I will try to obtain him myself, at least as a 5-star, so I can awaken him and sig him up. But yeah, that will also do for today. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's video, and if you have made it this far, then obviously there is a baby Yoda for you. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that sub button, drop a comment if you agree with my rankings. If you do not, how would you rank the top 5 tech champions? And I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya.